I want to put something to the test. Do we see any performance loss if we take this 32 gig dual channel setup of RAM and just do a 16 gig single stick with the 9850 X3D? I don't know, let's see. Hey guys, it's Alex here, and it's another day in the microcenter studio, and we've got something fun planned again. But I mean, the main build is pretty straightforward. We're starting out with a 9850 X3D, pairing that with 32 gigs of RAM and then a single 16 gig stick as well. To pair with that processor, we are rocking with AMD's Radeon 9070 XT, a terabyte of crucial storage, and then we also have the Arctic 360mm liquid cooler to keep this chip nice and cool. So go ahead and throw it in the case, and we're just gonna see if the X3D technology actually minimizes the latency that you see if you're just doing a single stick for gaming rather than dual channel. So pop it open and let's get going. But I will call out that this is using our 9850 X3D bundle at the moment, currently selling for $699, which is a really good price. Price point wise, you cannot beat what this is bundling with. And tech case right there. Hope it posts, which it always does because I'm the world's best computer builder. I did actually run 2 of the CPU cables to the motherboard just because we are rocking with the 9850 X3D. And it's booting, and it's posting, and it's working because I built it. So I have the computer fully built, and we've got Windows installed, and all of our drivers going in. I mean, we all see it. The price of RAM is going up, so we're just trying to look into other affordable options and see how much efficiency you decrease when you go with a single versus dual. And why does that even matter? With the X3D processors, it's kind of a new realm. People have been testing, we've been looking at the difference between this, but there hasn't been a lot of reports that have come out yet, to my knowledge anyway, about the actual efficiency difference between the two. So that's what we're looking at. If you want a full in-depth explanation about why the X3D processors work the way they do, Jordan did do another video on the channel if you want to go check it out. He does a lot more of a deep dive into that and how it works with RAM and why it ends up being faster, so he can explain it. So obviously with the X3D processors, you have that extra stack of cache on the chip, and that eliminates how often the CPU has to run to the RAM to grab information, because obviously gaming, it has a lot of unknown variables in terms of the computational data, or even if you're doing AI algorithms or AI machine learning. But especially in gameplay, you just have so many unknown variables. So it constantly has to go pull if it doesn't have that information right there to access. But thankfully, with the extra V-Cache, you've got it right there. So you're eliminating how often you have to run to the RAM, but also since the single stick has that dual bit setup, that's eliminating a lot more of the latency you would see when it's trying to run to go grab that extra information. So actually from some of the reports that we've seen in our lab there's actually a very minute difference between single versus dual channel setups, even coming as close as 1% difference in terms of the efficiency and the response time that you would want to see. We'll go ahead and actually get into the gameplay so we can see how that actually works and if it is true. So right now I am running the standard 16x2 gig kit that we're selling right now with our bundle, and it is the 6,000 speed. So I'm all about transparency and $1,800 and $1,900 before tax, but I mean, you are factoring in an amazing processor that by itself alone is going for nearly $500. Same with the GPU. I mean, it's a $700 GPU, but I mean, 16 gigs of VRAM, it's the 9070, you're gonna get great performance out of this thing. At the moment, we're not offering a bundle with just a single stick configuration for the 9850 X3D, but our bundles are always changing, so keep an eye out because we might have one in the future that has a good price point. But at the moment, sticking with the dual channel setup with our bundle is the better price point because it doesn't bundle down if you throw it into just a single stick. So you can see if I try to pair it up with just our single stick at this moment, it's about $2,000 before tax. I would not shy away from using a single stick setup if it is the best for your case at the moment. But if you do run into a bundle deal and you get 2 sticks, great. But from what I've been seeing, it actually does not cause that big of an efficiency drop. My favorite game to use for benchmarking at the moment, and it's just because Cyberpunk, yeah, it's a 5-6-year-old game now. It's been out for a while, but I mean, again, it still has a ton of support in terms of the development community. So we can test the ray tracing, we can test the render distance, we can test lighting, all of that. Whatever you want to test, we can. So I mean, ray tracing, we've got it on ultra. So I mean, frame generation is off. I'm gonna keep it off for this just because I do want to see the actual frame rate performance versus just having the generation in there. Frame generation, great, but we got a test to run here. So just so y'all see, we've just ton of high, ultra high settings. We'll just see how that goes. So yes, I would love to run a benchmark. So I guess while we're running this, I will talk a little bit more about this setup until I have like all of my numbers to compare and then do a rundown. So the 9850 X3D, it has the 8-core 16-thread setup there for you. It's got a lot of cache, man, 104 megabytes of cache. Like, what more could you ask for? Sitting right here, I mean, 221 frames, crazy. I don't even think that I can like physically interpret that many frames a second. I mean, I probably can, but anything like above 60, like, I think is good. But that's me. Anywho, I mean, minimum frame 107, that's really good. And then again, like ray tracing on ultra. I didn't even see like the RAM utilization go above like 14 gigs or so. So I have a feeling even on this exact same setup with a single stick, we'd probably see very, very, very similar performance. Now that we have the actual benchmark ran, I'm just gonna go ahead and hop into the game for like 60 to 70 seconds maybe and see how that runs. And then I'll go ahead and yank out a stick of RAM and see what our numbers are looking like after that. For this 9850 X3D, like this thing is not hitting crazy temperatures at all. Like peaking at 70 maybe, which is really good for these newer generation processors, which tend to run pretty hot anyway. You think I can? I like don't ever remember like hotkeys. Can I like? Hey, come on, go harass somebody else. Yeah, right. Oh, okay. Nope. Oh no. All right, let's go and look at this beautiful. Ooh, I need to get my sunglasses on. Actually, that is like really bright. But even now, like we're staying at like a solid, I don't think this has dropped below 100 frames at all still, which again, it is our dual channel setup, so to be expected with these specs. Anywho, I think that's like good enough. Like I don't really see any crazy like, no, like that looks good. I'm rocking with that. So I'm gonna go ahead, quit this game, shut down the computer properly. There's always a Windows update to be done, but yeah, I'll wait for this to update, shut down, and I'll yank out that stick after it's fully shut down. Yeah, I didn't go into the BIOS to enable XMP or anything, so I'm kind of curious to see how much of a difference that would also give us. Even if you're running a single channel setup, don't put that stick in channel 1. Like, don't use that. You only use 1 and 3 if you have 4 sticks. So leave that bad boy in slot 2 and just yank out slot 4. Yes, it would still technically post and work in slot 4, but it is not recommended. So standard with these newer systems too, like anytime you change your RAM setup, it'll usually take a bit longer for it to post after that first go around, but it's up and it's alive. So actually not that bad at all. It's definitely using less RAM, I feel like, than what it was using in the dual stick configuration, but FPS does seem to be a bit lower. Okay, but it still doesn't seem to be like bottlenecking or like throttling the game at all, which is good. Because like I said, like, I don't know, the speeds of DDR5 with this X3D technology, like, for like the price point, if you, again, have to go with a single stick, like it is not the end of the world. And in my opinion, I feel like it is much better to go with a single stick of 16 gigabytes than try to do 2 sticks of 8 gigabytes. One, because it's a lot harder to find 8 gigabyte sticks of DDR5 right now. And 2, it kind of limits your path for upgrade options without you having to spend even more money in the future. Because a lot of times you can run 4 sticks in a DDR5 setup, but it's typically recommended to just have like the 2 channel setup with the DDR5, and yeah. So our average FPS was 127 right here. The 32 gig setup actually had a lower frame rate than the single stick of 16, which is really crazy. I mean, obviously like the average is 126.84 versus 127.09, so it's technically like, it's not even a full frame difference, but very interesting that the 16 gig stick came out on top for that. The 16 gig stick even had like a higher minimum FPS. To be expected though, the 32 gig had a higher max FPS, but very marginal difference. If anything, I would have expected that to be flipped, but that's actually really, really good to know. But let's go ahead and jump back into the actual game and see if it functions the same way with the 16 gig setup as well. I'll just go ahead and drive around, kind of do like the same thing that I did with the other setup configuration. Ooh, pardon me. So I mean, like RAM, it's still not even using the full 16 gigs, which is, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, they're shooting at me, okay. Got a situation here. But still, 170 frames with a single 16 gig stick of DDR5. That's insane. I know we're technically not looking at like the performance for the CPU or the GPU per se in this video, but still, like, the CPU temperatures are great. Like, the utilization for both, like, this is a good setup. Like, this is honestly, like, very similar to what my personal build would look like. We're gonna overdrive that ray tracing. No AMD gen, crowd density. Yeah. High, yeah. I think that, I mean, like, most of my settings were already cranked, actually. Okay, but no, look, yeah, wait. That's telling stories right there. It actually isn't. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so it did dip below to around like 90 frames a second there after I had like reloaded and bumped up some of the render settings. But even like, look at that. Like that is crazy. Yeah, that is like, that's like within the 1% difference that I saw on like a lot of the testing sites, which is crazy. If you just like sit back and think about how the like information transfer went between CPU and like DDR4, for example, and I'm just referencing like the last generation because it's just like the easiest to compare to. But if you just like think about that and how having a single stick in there was a drastic difference comparatively. And again, also like if I was running this without the X3D technology, I would bet you that frame rate difference would jump up a bit more. Like this is actually insane. Like that's actually crazy to me. I'm so sorry, please don't come for me. I know I joke about playing Fortnite a lot and I'm so sorry that that probably is the top game in my library right now. I do need to get in some better games. So if you guys have any like game suggestions that I need to check out, I saw somebody said that I looked like the girl from Expedition 33, something like that. And that sounds like an interesting game. There's like so many games out right now that I feel like I'll start so many of them and then I just will like forget about it and not go back to it, but. I now have my own like really nice computer at home, so I need to start gaming more, but I was actually a lot more of a gamer when I was younger. I remember like throwback to like when PewDiePie was doing like the like original like Amnesia gameplay. I remember like sitting with my sister in the basement and just like being like so scared watching it, but being like so like invested, and it was crazy. Ooh, wait, he's cute. Maybe I should play this game. Okay. I feel like if you just roll around, that's fine, right? And like button smash. Oh, are these good? Oh, why did he have to sit up? Come on. But like, yeah, look at this. Even like active combat, I'm just like rolling around because I don't know what to do, right? But 70, 60 to like 100 frames a second on this single stick setup on these settings is crazy. So I love that. FPS was 188, which is still crazy. No, it was because frame gen was on. Interesting. I'll be curious to test that because I did not have frame generation on for Cyberpunk, but it was on for this. 2 sticks back in there. Let's load it up, let's run it up. I have a feeling this is gonna end up being very similar to the Cyberpunk benchmark. This is beautiful. Honestly, like I should probably hop on this game. This seems like a game I could play. This game does seem to run better on a dual stick configuration. The average frame rate for a single stick was 206, whereas the 2 sticks was 209. This is definitely a game that you are gonna notice a lot more difference, I guess you could say, than if you like Cyberpunk. Like Cyberpunk, I didn't really see that much, but this one is definitely showing it. The minimum FPS on the 16 was 51, which is technically good, I guess, for like all of the settings that I cranked it up to. However, when you look at the 32 gig set, having the minimum FPS of 170, that does not look that good. And it's kind of interesting that it is, I don't know if it's because we're lacking in the space, but it looks like the VRAM usage on the GPU is a bit higher for our 1 stick set as well, which is kind of interesting to see. It looks like if you have a single stick of like 16, It might like jump your FPS a lot more. You might not have quite a smooth like frame rates, but like overall it is still very comparable. It just might be a little bit more jumpy, for lack of a better word there, compared to the 32 gigs. So back into the game, this is our 32 gig set, or what I keep saying it by that. This is our dual stick setup. Oh, what is that? Oh my God. Do you think it's nice? Take that. Oh. Whoa. Oh wow. The dual channel is performing better in this game. And like we also have to remember it varies greatly depending on like the type of game and like how it is actually designed. Okay, I'm back and I've tested all of my games with a single stick versus a dual channel setup, and honestly, as I expected, some games are performing better with a dual channel setup, and to my surprise, some games are actually outperforming a dual channel setup with a single stick. So that's super weird, but to be expected. Just depends on like the type of game you're playing and what type of render engine, what it is doing to render your gameplay. But overall, I'm really happy with the results. So I mean, I talked about it a bit before, but Cyberpunk actually seemed to run better on a single stick rather than a dual channel by about a 1 frame margin. So it's not too crazy, but it is still really interesting to see that we're really not seeing a huge drop in latency or frame rate performance with just having a single stick. But if we go over to like the F1 2025 game, it's a little bit different. So I mean, your average frame rate for one stick is 122, two sticks is 123. Not that bad. I mean, what you're really gonna notice the difference in though is, I guess, the maximum FPS. The minimum FPS in that game was still like a 1 frame difference, but you do see about a 21% decrease in the maximum frame rate for two sticks. So Cyberpunk and F1 seem to be performing better, which is really interesting. And I will also say I did crank up all of my gameplay settings, like video settings, to either like super epic, high, like Ultra Nightmare was one of them. So I tried to crank everything up to the craziest preset just to like really stress the system. And again, this is one of the games that we saw one of the bigger hits in terms of minimum versus maximum FPS. So minimum for one stick was 51 versus 170 for two sticks. So that's a 233% increase. But I mean, your average frame rate is still hanging around the same. So you might see some dip, some like jitteriness, I suppose, but overall that's still pretty good too. Oh, okay, I did see a little bit of a lag there. Moving to Arc Raiders though, that was one of the newer games that I tested out that was a little bit different. So I mean, you do have about 11% increase in average frame rate with two stick. And this was also one of the games where I saw a huge difference in minimum frame rate versus maximum. So one stick had a minimum frame of about 50 frames per second, two sticks was 155. So that is a very noticeable difference. But again, your average frame rate is about the same. I mean, it has 11% difference, but still not too bad for a single versus dual channel setup. Baldur's Gate, I did notice again a very big difference anyway. So I mean, minimum FPS for one stick was about 60, and for two sticks it was 193. So that game also did see a pretty big jump in minimum versus maximum FPS, but your average frame rate was about a 30% difference. So not horrendous. Will you notice that 30% difference on your eye? Probably, but 174 frames a second is still really good considering a single channel setup with like the presets cranked to ultra. I assume this is good. Okay. Oh. Wait, that's kind of fire. Ooh. Oh, wait. Doom: The Dark Ages. Very similar line. I mean, minimum frames was about 86 for a single stick, 100 frames for two sticks. The average frame rate for both stick setups was within like a 5% difference. That's not too bad. You did see a little bit of a jump within minimum FPS though, so about like a 16% difference, and max FPS in that game was actually quite interesting, so a 66% jump from 242 to 403 frames, but again, do you really need 403 frames a second? I don't know. Ew, no. I don't care about your arm. I don't. Helldivers was another one, so I mean, we saw about a 35% difference between the average frame rate of the single versus dual channel setup. Not that big of a difference between minimum frame rate though, so you're not gonna see that really big like jump that you might see. Max FPS had a bit of a jump as well, but overall still seemed to perform pretty well with ultra settings. Spider-Man actually was another game very similar to Cyberpunk, where the average frame rate was actually higher with a single stick than a dual stick setup. Really weird, but I mean within about a like 1 frame difference. So nothing too crazy. Same with minimum and maximum for Spider-Man. I mean, the single versus dual channel setup is really not giving you any huge difference there. Starfield, also very similar. You're not seeing a huge jump between like min and max frame rate for the dual and single channel setup. So I mean, 219 frames versus 217, not horrendous. You're within a 2% margin at most on that one. Ooh. And the chat is already looking exactly like how I would expect a Counter-Strike chat to look, so. Oh, no, no. No, this is why I can't play CSGO. I'm actually so bad at this game. And CSGO was kind of interesting to me. It was the game with the highest frame rate or highest FPS. Actually about the same average frame rate for the game for 1 versus 2 sticks. Your minimum FPS was a bit higher with 2 sticks, and your max FPS was actually lower with 2 sticks, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, overall, like if you had 1 versus 2 stick with CSGO, you're really not gonna notice a difference at all. And then Assassin's Creed Shadow. So this one was actually pretty comparable as well. So I mean, average, I did notice I had my gameplay setting on very low for this one, so I went back and ran the benchmark testing on very high. And there was definitely a drop in performance, but it just really depends on what setting you want to run your games at. But if we're looking at the very low setting on Assassin's Creed Shadow, you're not even within a 1% difference of your average frame rate. And I mean, minimum and maximum FPS, like 10% margin on it. So I mean, you're not noticing a crazy like jump or a dip down compared to some of the other games like Baldur's Gate. So still really good for that. And then the final one that I looked at was Battlefield 6. It's performing a little bit better with a dual channel setup. I mean, a 15% difference, which once you hit 150 frames, like I still think that's really good. It's not that crazy. I mean, it does dip down to 97 frames for the minimum, but still not too bad. I mean, if I was seeing a dip down to like 20 or 30 frames, I might be a little bit worried, but overall, not bad. Some of them definitely are still outperforming with the dual channel setup, but if you're using the X3D technology with the extra L3 cache, like you are really not gonna notice enough of a difference, especially if it comes down to price point. Because I see it, we all see it. Some sticks of RAM are costing similar to a GPU now. We're doing the best we can, so again, if it comes down to it, and you can save a few $100s by just doing a single channel setup, I still think it's very well worth it compared to our previous generations of like DDR4 or something like that. I feel like a lot of us have like deeply ingrained in our brains that like, especially for gaming, if you don't have a dual channel setup, like you're cooked. But that really is not the case anymore with AMD's technology. I mean, this X3D, like the extra L3 cache on the X3D chips are like getting rid of that difference that you would see with like a lot of other things. And I think also too, DDR5 being the 2x32-bit setup versus DDR4 again being the 1x4 or 1x64-bit, I think that's again helping a lot with decreasing the latency you might see. But yeah, I think for what this is, it's a really good option to do a single stick if you need to. My overall consensus with this is, yes, certain games do see a difference in performance if you have a dual channel setup. However, it's not a big difference, especially with other games. And I also want to take into consideration that I do have all of the game settings cranked to ultra high. So I'm betting that like margin, like that difference that we're seeing right now with certain games would probably be, yeah, I feel like that margin would probably like shrink a little bit had I not had all my settings on super high, but I just really wanted to get the most out of what the difference could possibly be. But it's great. I don't think it's as bad as everybody thought it was going to be. I think that pretty much finishes up my testing with this single versus dual channel setup of DDR5. If we were pairing it with a chip that was not an X3D, I can't necessarily speak on that, but I think again, when we're combining the X3D technology with these AMD CPUs, with the power and performance of DDR5, you're really not seeing a big of a difference as you might think compared to a dual channel setup if you're just running single. So, super glad I could take you guys along in this journey with me. I know I was really interested to see, especially because, again, I had it ingrained in my brain for the longest time that if you didn't have 2 sticks of RAM, like, this computer was basically, like, useless. But that's not the case. It's just simply not the case. And if you don't believe me, run your own benchmarks. But I mean, I did it through over 10 games here, and I think it's looking really promising. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you want to see anything else in the future. But yeah, make sure to comment if you want a microcenter near you. Let me know where you want a microcenter near you with that hashtag, I want a microcenter near me. But of course, yeah, just leave me a comment. Let me know what you like, maybe don't tell me what you don't like. Yeah, just like gas me up in the comments, it'll be okay. But no, seriously, I really enjoyed filming this video, and I'm super glad that I can bring some more benchmarks to light to show you that the argument of single versus dual is coming to an end, honestly, in my opinion. But who's to say? Who's to say? Anywho, yep. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.